Hello, I think the webinar has started. I'm just waiting for a small confirmation and maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Welcome to everybody joining. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Yeah, and thanks a lot, I think, to Tony. Happy New Year! I forgot. Happy New Year to all of you. 2020 was kind of interesting year, I could say. I do believe 2021 is going to be another very, very interesting year, full of surprises and hopefully good surprises. And we are going to come back on that. How to have more surprises, good surprises, and less bad surprises. Okay, maybe 30 more seconds. Happy New Year to all of you from Rome, from London, Zurich, London. Okay, I think we can start. So as you may have assumed, my name is Bruno Marion, and I'm going to be with you for about an hour. Reading all the countries and cities where you are with us tonight, it reminds me a question that I would like to ask you. What is the common belief that your parents or your grandparents, let's say for 40 years after the end of World War II, what is the belief that your parents or grandparents all shared at that time, whatever their religion, whatever their country or country of origin? I believe most of them, they believed in one thing. You can give me your ideas in the chat, but I'm not going to wait too long. They believed in survival, I read that. They also believed in progress. That is to say, they believe that their children, their kids would live in a better world. They believed in progress. They believed that the world would get better, whatever their own social condition, whatever their own place where they used to live. They believe that their kids would live in a better world. So I have a question for you. Do you think that our kids, your kids, if you have any, do you think that your kids are going to live in a better world compared to ours, according to your own criteria, however you make your decision? Do you believe that your kids, our kids, are going to live in a better world or in a world that is going to get worse or not as good? Just put plus or minus in the chat box. I'm going to have a quick look. Better, worse, minus, plus, definitely better, plus. I think we have more plus than the number of plus I usually get. And I don't see anybody who put plus and minus, because this is my answer. I believe our kids, and by the way, I believe us as well. I believe that our kids are going to live in a world that is getting better and better, worse and worse, and all that faster and faster. Because I believe we are living in a world that has become more uncertain because it has become more chaotic. And what I would like to share with you tonight is how we can thrive in this more uncertain world, how we can be more resilient, and even how can we benefit from crisis. When I was 36, I didn't have any kid at that time, and all reasons to think that I will not have biological children at that time. And when you are 36, I don't know, maybe some of you are around 36. When you are 36, everybody around you, at least at that time, they have kids. So it's like every dinner, every vacation reminds you that you are different. So at that time, I started to wonder, I asked myself, what's going to be my legacy? Since I'm not going apparently to leave my DNA to the universe, what can be my legacy for the universe, or at least for my friends' children? And really this question started to get bigger and bigger in my mind, and is still a very, very important question. What's going to be my legacy? And at that time, I had traveled already a lot. I already wrote book about Asian cultures. And at that time, so that is approximately 20 years ago, I had the feeling, I think now we have facts as we are going to see, but at that time it was more like a feeling that our world, humankind, whatever you call it, was going through an amazing transition. Amazing in scale and in speed. And that this transition could bring us amazing opportunities if we knew how to understand it and if we have the right tools, or would bring amazing crisis and amazing risk if we didn't understand this transition or if we didn't have the right tools. So at that time, I just decided, Bruno, this is going to be your mission. And hopefully your little legacy to the universe. You need to understand what's happening to us. At that time, I was talking about a mega shift. What is mega shift about? And how can we thrive in this new world? And how can we avoid the crisis of this new world? So I left my job. At that time, I was sales and marketing director in a quite a very, very big international company. And I left my job. Well, by the way, when people tell you this story 20 years after, it's always like the hero story. Everything is going well. I made this very, very bright decision. Well, for me, it was not that smooth, to tell you the truth. First, everybody, first my parents, even at 36 years old, but also my friends were calling me almost every day, Bruno, what are you doing? You lost your mind. You're just crazy. You didn't pay your apartment yet, etc., etc. So I was going through like very excited days, let's do it, and some very, what I called realistic, but now I see them as more negative days, like Bruno, just keep your word. Anyway, one day I just decided, let's go for it. And at that time, I just started to travel around the world every year. Well, at that time, we could fly. Maybe some of you may remember what it means to fly in a plane. And at that time, we were not thinking that much about our carbon footprint. So I started to travel every year. My idea was to meet people who could help me to understand this transition and find the right tool. So I met super rich people, super poor people. I met artists, politicians. I met gurus in India, gurus in the Silicon Valley. They are not the same, not doing the same thing. I met people in jail. I met special forces people. I met war journalists. I was trying to find the people handling uncertainties on a daily basis and learn from them. And also I started to read even more and more. Even today, I still read more than 100 books every day, every year. So After traveling for many years, meeting all these people, I don't know, thousands now. Actually, the more I was traveling, the less it was making sense to me. And now I understand partly why. One of the reasons is the more I was exposing myself to the complexity of the world, the more I was discovering that the world is getting more and more complex. It makes sense. So it was very difficult for me because I was failing in my mission. The more I was trying to understand, the less I was understanding. So I couldn't find these tools that I wanted to find. But not only that, at that time, when I was traveling, well, actually, even still today, when I was traveling, I could feel a suffering world. Even when I was meeting sometimes very rich people, I could see that they were suffering. So I was like, well, Bruno, it's been years now that you have been traveling. The whole thing doesn't make sense. And one day, I remember, I was in Hong Kong. I guess some of you may have been to Hong Kong. At that time, I knew Hong Kong quite well because I used to live in Hong Kong. But for some reason, I guess being so tired from the trip, being jet lagged, and being maybe mentally exhausted by my quest, my unsuccessful quest, I was in this hotel, the Mira Hotel in Hong Kong, in Kowloon. And I was quite high in the building, and I'm looking down the street, and I see all these people like ants from above, and I'm like, what's the point? I mean, where are we going? Are we just going like from one shopping mall to another shopping mall? What's the meaning? And I'm like totally depressed, and I feel, okay, this doesn't make sense. This is just a big mess. This is just chaos. And when I hear myself saying this word, chaos, I'm like, wait, bro, stop a second. Do you mean chaos like havoc, mess? Or do you mean chaos like in a scientific meaning sense? Because I knew that chaos in science doesn't mean mess. And I knew if it was real chaos, like, I mean, scientific chaos, maybe I could find some hidden patterns and even some tools that we could use to thrive in this new chaotic world. So I went back home and I did my homework. I read more and more about chaos theories. I met all the specialists I could meet about complexity theories, chaos theories. And I came to the conclusion that yes, our world has become more uncertain because our world has become more chaotic in the scientific sense. And what I would like to share with you today is three things. First, why and how our world has become chaotic or more chaotic than before. Second, what does it mean, chaos? What does it mean in a way that we can understand it, share the meaning with our friends, with our family, so we can use it? That leads me to the third part, which is the most important for me, is what to do. What do we do? What can we do to thrive in this world, to be more resilient and even benefit from crisis? So first thing, why our world has become more chaotic than before. Essentially, not only, but essentially for three reasons. Numbers, connection, and speed. The first one, numbers. How many people were living on this planet approximately 100 years ago? 100 years ago, there were approximately 1 billion humans living on this planet. How many people are living today? 7 billion? 8 billion? So let's say it's been multiplied by 7 or 8. Wherever you are, maybe you are just by yourself in this room. But if you were 7 or 8 times more in the room, obviously, I'm not saying this is better or worse. I'm just saying that would be different. And this is my main point. The world is different just by increasing the number. This makes our world very, very different. In chaos theories, we talk about the explosion of agents. Humans are like agents. If you really look at the evolution of the human population, it stays very, very, very low for years. Of course, it oscillates, wars, disease already at that time, but it stays quite low. And in the past 100, 200, 300 years, this is really like an explosion of humans. First reason why our world has become more chaotic: explosion of the number of humans, explosion of the number of agents on this planet. The second reason, main reason, is connection. Not only you have 7 or 8 times more people in your room or on this planet, but it seems they are all talking together at the same time. Since 2014, there are more mobile phones on this planet than human beings. I repeat, I know some of you may have 2 or 3 mobile phones, but it doesn't change the order. There are, since 2014, there are more mobile phones on this planet than human beings. More than half of the world population is connected to internet. And it's not only the digital connection, by the way, it's also the physical connection. More than half of the world population is living in what we call big cities. So basically, we bump into each other almost every day or constantly. Until March 2020, we were traveling across the world. This is one of the biggest change, if you think of it, for some of us, for some of you, the quasi stop of traveling and meeting people around the world. So not only the number of agents, the number of people exploded, but they are all talking together. Explosion of connected agents. This is a precondition for having what I will call a chaotic stage or a chaotic phase. But it's not only that. It's not only the explosion of number of people and the explosion of the connection. There is very often when I tell that to my friends, like we have dinner, one of them raise their hand. No, they don't raise their hand in France, but they just interrupt me and they just tell me, but Bruno, you think this time is extraordinary. You think this time is very special just because this is your time. But most probably 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 20,000 years ago, humans, at least some of them, were also thinking they were going through an amazing time. If somebody tells you that, just say yes, because they are right. Our ancestors have been through an amazing crisis, amazing changes. The difference with what we are going through, I mean, I could only just say 2 words: speed and scale. Speed and scale. No transition has impacted so many people in such a little time. Let me give you 2 examples. Try to think back. When we were hunters, gatherers. Changing from being hunters, gatherers to being farmers, let's say, it took thousands of years. It changed everything, by the way. It changed our social system. Being the farmer's age is the explosion of the nation states, of many religions. It took thousands of years from being hunters, gatherers to being, for most of them at that time, farmers. Not only it took thousands of years, but the transition didn't impact everybody at the same time. The next big transition, I could say this is from being farmers to the industrial age, let's call it that way. This took not thousands of years, but hundreds of years. And again, it didn't impact everybody at the same time. The transition that we are going through, whether you call it to the new internet age, information age, knowledge age, maybe one day wisdom age. We are not there yet. Huh? Whatever you call it, it's taking what? 10 years, 50 years, decades. And as we have seen, it is impacting almost everybody. Not everybody, but no transition has impacted in social life, in thinking, in the way we think. No transition has impacted so many people in such a little time. And this is changing everything. This is changing everything also because decades, this is human scale. It's like before thousands of years, okay, I'm sure they had conflicts of generation at that time. But now it's like we have conflicts between people being 30 years old and people being 20 years old, if not 25 years old. Speed and scale. Even today, I get many questions like, what do you think about COVID? What do you think this is big? Do you think this is small? Do you think this is and they all refer to the past, like the Spanish flu or even further. And I always answer, look, obviously the Spanish flu, as far as we know, and as of today, killed many more people than COVID. And still, there is a huge difference. At that time, they were not conscious, they were not aware of what was happening. They didn't realize that it was happening at a global scale. In March, or let's say in April, there were, if I remember well, less than 1,000 people dead from COVID. As far as we know, there may be more, but again, that's the order that is important for us. Less than 100,000 people died at that time from COVID. Late April, half of the world population was in some kind of lockdown. And this is really the message that I would like to share with you. Well, if you're a medical doctor, obviously, is the COVID good, bad? Well, good, bad, very bad, or extremely bad? Please work on that. But as a futurist, it's not for me the most important thing. As a futurist, if I see a small event, sorry for all the people who were affected at that time, but 100,000 people dead, it's not that big at the planetary scale. So 100,000 people, half of the world population, seeing their life affected. Most of them in some kind of lockdown. That's a huge impact. I cannot think of any event, as far as we know, again, as far as we know, I cannot think of any event that has such an impact on such a big scale in such a little time. Explosion of humans, explosion of the number of agents, explosion of the connections, and for certain things, not for everything, amazing increase of speed and scale. And this is what leads us to a chaotic stage. And now I would like to share with you, what does it mean, chaos? At least what does it mean for science or for scientific people? It can mean whatever you want for yourself. But I would just like to share with you, what does it mean for science? For science, and I'm going to share a couple of images to make it, I hope, more simple to understand. For chaos theories, chaos is not good or bad. Chaos theories is a stage, like water. Water can be in different stages or different phases. Water can be solid, water can be liquid, and water can be a gas. So we don't think about it because for us it's quite natural. And at the same time, obviously, we are not going to behave with water the same depending on its states. Liquid, solid, or gas. We don't think of it, but automatically we adapt the way we behave with water. A system can also have different states. When I'm talking about a system is a certain number of agents. You remember agents like humans. It's a certain number of agents interacting with each other. So typically, your body is a system, your family is a system, your company is a system, your country is a system, the humankind is a system, etc., etc. A system can have, like water, 3 different states that I would like to share with you. The first state that a system can have is to be balanced. I put it like a flat, like it's flat. It doesn't move. That's what I mean. It doesn't move. It's just flat. Maybe you are just balanced on your chair watching your screen right now. If I would come and push you, you would start to oscillate gently, like a swing. If you push the swing will oscillate not too far from equilibrium. Not too far from equilibrium. It's like a thermostat. Depending, let's say you live in a very warm country. If you have AC, if the temperature is too high, AC will start and the temperature will go down. Then when it's too cold, AC will stop, temperature will go up, etc., etc., etc. This is like an oscillation. What we learn from chaos theories is that at a certain point, called the tipping point, the system can go out of equilibrium, out of control, and you can see what we call self-amplification. Let's go back to the thermostat. It's like the thermostat is broken, or the thermostat is gone totally crazy. Let's say it's too hot. So the thermostat put AC on, then it's too cold, then the thermostat puts more AC. And when it's really, really too cold, more and more AC. The colder. It works in the other direction. The warmer it is, the warmer it gets, etc., etc. Because there are so many of us, because we are so connected, because certain events don't have the time to go back to balance, we can see many self-amplification. Let's go back to the COVID. When 100,000 people, or even 1 million, it's horrible what I'm saying, can change the life or more than half of the world population, this is a huge self-amplification. Let's take another example. It's like the more people on the new social network, let's say we invent a new TikTok, or let's call it TikTok. we invent TikTok. If each of us, we can convince 10 people, who can convince 10 more people, who can convince 10 more people to join, the more we are on, what was the name? TikTok? I don't know. The more we are on TikTok, the more we are. And because again, there are more people, more connected, there are many examples of self-amplification like this. The richer you are, the richer you get. And we have seen that very clearly even in the past month. The poorer you are, the poorer you get. This is also what we call in chaos theory, and I'm sure most of you have heard this before. This is called the butterfly effect. Butterfly effect, flying in the south of France where I am, can trigger, possibly can trigger a big storm somewhere at the other end of this planet. I believe that we are here. The two first states, they are what we call linear states, which means once you have understood them, you can predict them and you can control them, like the thermostat. And we are, our brain, the way we deal with life is very efficient with linear system. And we would like, for some of us, I'm an engineer, so I would love that everything can be understandable and predictable, and that we could control the system. And in the past, not everything, but most of the thing we would interact with on a daily basis was linear. So if you are facing a linear system, something that you can control, you want to predict, so you can understand, you want to understand, sorry, so you can predict and you can control. After the tipping point, you cannot control. Typically, in the first linear phase, we were talking about cyclical crisis. So I'm not an expert, but it's like prices are going up, the bubble, the bubble, up, down, and maybe sometime up, down. Now, there are still cyclical crises. But on top of that, you have what we call systemic crisis. A sanitary crisis, a health crisis can trigger an economic crisis that can trigger a political crisis that can trigger a financial crisis, etc., etc., etc. If somebody asks you, what is chaos? One of the answer that you can give, you just talk about self-amplification, snowball effect, or butterfly effect. So now you may have one question, consciously or not, it's what's next? One of the two questions I hear most often, especially when I give talks, mostly online these days. When I give talks, the two questions I get the most is it getting back as usual at one point? And the second question is it, if not, is it going to get better? Well, chaos theories are giving answers to that. First, it cannot get back to the previous equilibrium. Yeah, because it's going away from the equilibrium more and more at each step, at each iteration. So no, according to chaos theories, it will not go back to what some people call normal. I don't know what was normal before, but it's not going back to the previous situation. Is it getting better or worse? According to chaos theories, there are two answers: good news and bad news. The bad news is, according to chaos theories, the system can collapse. This is the second principle. Oh, for some reason, I put it in French. So this is the collapse. This is the collapse. Everything is collapsing. Second principle of thermodynamics, if you're familiar with that. And if not, everything goes back to dust. And I really believe that some part, at least, of the system, or some systems, are or can collapse. That was the bad news. The good news is, according to chaos theories, you can have what you call a breakthrough. Sorry again, for some reason I put it in French. So this is émergence, as you can see in French. This is a breakthrough. Well, actually, emergence is the same in English. I believe that in certain areas, on certain aspects, I believe that we have passed the tipping point. And we are facing what I called from the very beginning this amazing transition, where, according to chaos theories, we can go to a new level. You know, it's always more complex, like from the atom to the molecule, to the living cell, to the organism, to the human being. We went through this breakthrough. Very often, people, when I show them this emerging thing, breakthrough, they tell, Bruno, you're a dreamer. And as you will see, yes, I am a dreamer. I totally accept that. And at the same time, again, we are the result of all these breakthrough. And I really believe that the question now is, what do we want? It's back in English now. What do we want in our personal life, in our communities, or in the world? Personally, I would definitely prefer the breakthrough. And that leads me to the third part. What can we do? What can we do? When you meet with chaos or complexity theories expert, or when you discuss with special forces people or war journalists, they all tell you the same. When you are facing complexity, the more complex it is, the more chaotic it is, the more you need to keep it simple. And what I'm going to tell you is super simple. We are going to use two hidden secrets of chaos theories. The first one, I already mentioned it. This is the self-amplification effect, the butterfly effect. What if we could change small things in our life, and that by repeating it and repeating it, we could change enormous things? That's the first secret. But there is also another secret, which is called the strange attractor. As I told you, chaos doesn't mean mess for science. There is a hidden order. In the world, in nature, you have disorder and you have order. Disorder, you cannot predict. There may be some statistics that you can use, but you cannot predict precisely. Order, what I called before a linear system, you can predict once you have understood, and then you can control. Disorder, you cannot predict, you cannot control. Order, you can predict and you can control. Chaos is the third state. And this is how Prigozhin got a Nobel Prize. He discovered, or he put a name on the third prize. Listen to that carefully. Chaos, you cannot predict. And at the same time, there is a hidden pattern. I repeat, disorder, you cannot predict, you cannot control. Order, linear system, once you have understood, you can control, you can predict. Chaos, you cannot predict, and at the same time, there is a hidden pattern. What we learned from chaos theories is that once we have entered a chaotic state, maybe we could use small changes that we could repeat, and have a big effect, like in the butterfly effect. And also maybe we can create or use some kind of strange attractor. So even if I cannot predict your life, we can make sure that not anything happens. I would like to tell you a story. Once I was having a drink with my friend John Peters, and John is from UK. And if you are over 50 and from UK, you may have heard of John, because as far as I know, he's one of the 7 still living prisoner of war in UK. He was young at that time, 20 something, and he was a pilot of a Tornado, if you're from UK. And his plane was shot down during the first Iraqi war, the first Gulf War. And him and his co-pilot, another John Nicol, they were captured and delivered to the Iraqi military army. And they were put in cells, if I can call that cells, and basically tortured for 7 weeks. And it was public at that time because the Iraqi government used it used the image of them being tortured, and so there was a photo. The pictures were in the newspapers at that time. So to tell you, John went through some very difficult time, and every time I meet somebody like John, I always ask these questions. John, how did you survive? How did you make it? How did you survive through these amazingly chaotic times? And again, we are in a pub in London, and he's like, let me think. I think 2 things helped me really the most. First, I had this dream every day, several times a day, and I was visualizing this dream of meeting my family, especially his younger kids at that time. I was just, by visualizing, I mean, I was feeling their skin, I was smelling their hair, I was hearing my wife's voice every day. I was dreaming, I was visualizing this dream. And the second thing, I had all these very, very stupid rituals. Like I would clean my cell. His cell was like something 2 square meters at a certain time. No light, total darkness. But I was cleaning. I was exercising. Again, sometimes he could barely move because of the torture he went through. A dream and rituals, small routines. What John is telling us is exactly the same as what chaos theories are telling us. If you are in chaotic times, like I believe we all are, you need a very clear dream, which is like the lighthouse in the storm. I don't know, maybe one day when some of you've been riding a bicycle or a motorbike in the sand. For me, I remember very well what happened, because my dream when I was young was to ride my motorbike across Morocco, which I did when I was 23 or 24 with my friends, Frank, Philippe, and Pierre. And when we arrived at the southern part of Morocco, you have amazing sand dunes, my dream. And so I was very proud with my motorbike. And what happens? And if you did it, you know what happened. First, you lose control. You totally lose control. And the more you try to control the handle or whatever, the more you lose control. And then this is the collapse, the real collapse. You do collapse. And I tried that several times, and after failing a couple of times, I just asked my friend Pierre, who at that time was a real biker, and he told me the secret. One of the secret is you need to look ahead. And I'm sure many of you know that. You need to look ahead. You need to look like as a invisible or visible point, and you just focus on that point. And it's really, if you have never done it, please try it. Be careful. Try it slowly at the beginning, and it's a miracle. It's like magic. You just look at the point straight ahead, and magically you get out of the difficult time. Well, you also need speed. If you're a biker, you know that. And this is the second secret. Speed is from the rituals. But first, I invite you to be very clear with your dream. 200 years ago, you could have a dream. And some of our parents, grandparents, they had dreams. But some of them, most of them, they didn't have. If you were a farmer in the south of France, your children most probably, statistically, would become farmers. Again, some of them had dreams and they became legends for some of them. But for most people, you didn't need to have a dream. You could have one, but you did not need one. Today, in this chaotic world, well, first, we have no idea what our kids, even ourselves, we have no idea, for most of us, what we are going to do in 10 or 20 years. We need this point. And of course, in chaotic times, you will get, especially in times of crisis, you may get new information, so it's perfectly okay to change the direction. What is important is that you have a clear one. I work on my dream. Like John, I visualize my dream every day. And this is my first routine. The second thing, if you want to change your life, but also if you want to be more resilient, like John, you need, at least I encourage you to try small routines. And I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples, and then I'll give you a link when you can find as many examples almost as you want. Every day, to be more resilient in this crazy world, I have my routine. I have a lot of routines, but you don't need to have a lot. What I'm telling you is, remember the butterfly effect. 5 minutes per day, you can change significantly your life. 15 minutes, you change dramatically your life. And I'm not asking you to believe me. I just invite you to try, just to try by yourself. 5 minutes every day. Maybe you can meditate a little bit. 1-2 minutes is not a lot, but that's a good beginning. That's my point. It's to start a routine. 5 minutes. Self-amplification. What would you think of 5 minutes of routines every day that makes you happier, that makes you more productive? So you actually save 5 minutes every day. Well, tomorrow you have 10 minutes. And if you save 10 more minutes, 10, we only have 24 hours a day. I know that. But you get my point. If you increase something, if you improve something by 1% every day, if it's cumulative, 1% every day after 1 year, I think it's 3,000, you'll check, Google it. It's 3,800 something, almost 4,000 times. If you improve something that helps you to improve something else, if it's cumulative, 1% every day is 4,000 at the end of the year. I invite you to be clear with your dream. And I promise my next article is going to be about how to clarify your dreams. So once you have it, you can read them, visualize your dream. I have one dream like in 1 year, and one dream in 10, 20 years. The time frame is not important. Just choose whatever makes sense to you. And then I have these small routines. I can share with you the one which changed my life the most. Besides meditation, I would say the gratitude. Every day, I find 3 things or 3 people or 3 events that I feel gratitude for. If you have never done it, just try this one. It changes your life like in a week. After 1 week, you feel, don't believe me, just try it. Just try it. I just invite you to try it. The gratitude, the forgiving. Every day, I ask myself what I can forgive. And it does include myself. Like maybe tomorrow morning, I'll be like, oh, Bruno, you wanted to tell them that, or you wanted to speak only for 45 minutes and you spoke for 47 minutes. And I will be like, Bruno, that's fine. Just forgive yourself. Just forgive yourself. And of course, you can add more routines. Maybe read a book, 15 minutes every day. I'll give you a link where you can find many more routines, rituals that I've tried myself. But at that stage, I just want you to make the connection between the story about John visualizing, meeting his family again, making his routines every day. In chaotic times, in complex times, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Build your own strange attractor, and you don't have to remember this word. Just make sure you have your point, your lighthouse in the storm, your point like in the sand with your motorbike. Have a dream. And it can be a picture, it can be 1 sentence, it can be 2 words. You just need something that you can visualize every day, and start a couple of routines. Just start a couple of routines. Don't believe me, just try it maybe for a couple of weeks. They all say that 3 weeks is a time to change your neural pathways. It's a time for me to wrap up, and I just like to share with you again what is the most important for me. I really believe that we are actually, before even I wrap up. Again, I prepare. Here it is. I prepare a special. I'm going to put it in the chat box as well. Here you will find a couple of bonuses. But maybe, by the way, I'll put the recording of this video. I'll check that with Katrina. I will put. You can get a PDF. You can, if you give me your email address. I'm not going to spam you for years. You're just going to receive 3 or 4 emails, including like the notes. This is the first thing you're going to receive. The notes I would have taken if I was in your position listening to me. I used to say it was a 1-page PDF. No, I think it's a 3 pages or 4 pages PDF. But very, very practical example that you can try for yourself. Just select the routine, for instance, that makes sense for yourself, for your context, and just try it. Wrap up. Maybe you don't agree with me. and this is perfectly okay. But what I want to share with you is I'm really convinced that on certain aspects of humankind, we have passed the tipping point. And we are now at this amazing crossroads where we can see civilization as we know it collapse. And at the same time, we are at the crossroad where we can see basically almost like a new civilization, or at least a new me, a new community, a new nation, whatever the scale of what you're looking at. That many people, when I tell them that, they say, well, you know, Bruno, I'm just a small startup, or I work by myself, or I cannot change things. And I also work with people in very, very large company, and they tell me, well, you know, Bruno, my company is so large that I really cannot change things. So basically, when I hear them, nobody can change things. Actually, I can prove you that because of the butterfly effect, you never had so much power. In the previous world, in what I call the linear world, if you wanted to change things, you needed to be very, very powerful. That is to be a head of state or super rich or many of you, and you can start a revolution. That's the old world. In today's world, maybe with a simple tweet, a simple post, or maybe just a simple idea that you share with one of your friends, maybe just an idea today, because of the butterfly effect, of the snowballing effect, of the self-amplification effect, you can change everything you want. If you want to thrive in this new chaotic world, have a dream. It doesn't have to be big. It can be big, please, but it doesn't have to be big. It can something very simple that you can focus for 1 minute, 30 seconds every day. And start your 5 minutes rituals every day, every morning. I like to do it in the morning because for me it's a good start of the day, but again, you can do it another time. Thank you so much. Please be like me. Now you know that chaos is your friend and not just mess and havocs. And join me. So it's not only a meeting, but it can be a start of a relationship. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to answer some of your questions, but for that, I will have to look either at the Q&A, or in the chat. If you put something in the chat, I'm going to check that. Again, thank you so much. Let me put so you just have to click. Okay, here it is. Maybe I'll put it back at the end. Have a dream, have a dream, and start your 5 minutes rituals every day. Let me see, so I can see questions. How long again to change your neural pathway? Oh, I'm not a specialist about that, but I've read a lot. And I would definitely encourage you to, if you're interested in that, to read The Power of Habits by I'm looking, you don't see, but there is my bookshelf just behind the camera. Is that The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg. The Power of Habit. And from neuroscience, well, you know, to answer this question, when I was 20 years old, many years ago, they told us that you would get no new neurons after 20 years or 25 years. I don't remember. So basically, you only go down. So that was not good news. It's like every year you just go down, which is partly true. But since then, we have discovered what we call the brain plasticity, if I remember well, and you can reprogram. One of my routine, for instance, every day is I read my general operating principles, the way I want to behave. Like I have these things from maybe some of you know him from the ex-Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, and he wrote books. Just said Jocko Willink, just Google it. And he has this thing like, it's good. When shit happens, the first thing he has in his mind is, it's good. And every day I'm reading, it's good. And at the beginning, you're like, oh, what is this? It's not good. And I swear, after a couple of weeks, apparently 3 weeks, I mean, you have something bad, really bad happening. And even before you start to be sad or anxious, you have this thing popping up in your head. it's good. And then you start to find the good part of it and use it. So 3 weeks, apparently. When you close your eyes to focus on something in the future, that future part, what are you thinking of? Oh, I don't know. I can share with you what I am actually thinking of. In my case, I'm reading my dream. So it's very personal. So you may think I'm totally crazy, and you would be right. So this is my tablet, and it's I'm using Evernote. No advertising, but I'm using Evernote. So it's very easy for me to find it. So normally I take time for all this routine, but sometime in life, at least until March last year, I would travel, so I would have to run to an airport. So I would have my dream. It's like this. I have pictures, and so my first thing. Well, there is some part in English and some part in French. So maybe it's like this is in French. I contribute to the evolution of humankind and consciousness, whatever it means for you, but it means something for me. This is the crazy part of being a futurist monk. So I just think of my own dream. To answer your question, I think this is Sulove. I hope my pronunciation is good. So let me check if we are almost, we have still 4 minutes or 5 minutes. If there is one more question. Oh, you're very kind. You're very kind. I shouldn't read that now. I'm going to cry with all the thank. Welcome to Morocco. Welcome again. Oh, I love Morocco. I want to go back. Let me see. 2 more questions apparently. Or are they the same? I don't know. Yeah, they are. Okay, 2 questions. Okay, so maybe I can wrap up again. I really believe in what I'm sharing with you, which doesn't mean I'm right. But there is one way of checking. It's to try. So please try it. If you don't have a clear dream, well, some of you may have a super clear dream. But if you don't have a dream, and some people even tell me, I don't want to have a dream. Well, I believe that if you are still alive and a human, you have dream, but they may not be a conscious dream. If you don't have a clear dream, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, whenever, just go and walk in the forest if you're lucky to have a forest or a park or by the water, and you just go with this question: where do I want to be in 1 year? What good can happen to my life during this coming year? And you don't try to answer the question. You just go, and maybe this is a good day. You will have plenty of insights. Maybe this is not a good day. That's fine. Just repeat it next week. And then one day you will see, you will have, the first time I did it, nothing happened. I'm an engineer, white, male, old, French, forget it. For me, it was a bit too spiritual. And now, again, I'm meditating every day, 30 minutes. But at that time, I found that a bit crazy. And by the way, if you meditate, it's a good idea to meditate first and then do this little workshop. Try to find your own dream, write it down, read it tomorrow. You may have another idea. Maybe like me, you will add a picture of your dream. Create your dream. That's my first advice. And try a couple of routines. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to me. I have a lot of gratitude for thanks to a small world, a small, beautiful world. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas, and please try it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I put my where you can reach me again. So you just have to click. Thank you so much. Bye bye all. Bye bye everybody. Thank you.